All right, guys. Today I'm going to kind of talk about my own stuff. When I'm not working on customer stuff, I like to work on my own stuff, kind of like what you guys do, on the weekends. You work 5 days a week. You want to work on your projects on the weekend, so I'm no exception. Today, I'm putting a headliner in the 82 Trans Am, and I'm going to tell you a backstory on that car because it's pretty interesting, but I'm going to let you know that I do have 4 cars that I play around with. I've got a 67 Tempest GTO. I call it that because it originally came as Tempest. I cloned it over to a GTO. I've had that car since I was in high school, so I've had it since, well, I've had it for almost 40 years, if you can believe that. But then I have a 77 black and gold Trans Am W72 true 4-speed car. That was my favorite. That was the car I fell in love with. That's what started it all. It was Smoking the Bandit, That's what did it for me. And then I also have a 72 Le Mans that I cloned to look like a 70 GTO Judge. Orbit orange. I love the movie Dazed and Confused. That was my inspiration. So anyway, back to the 82 Trans Am. This thing, it came to us from a customer that we were working on his Trans Am. The guy, he had a huge collection of Firebirds. And so anyway, one day we were working on his 79 Trans Am, and he come out to see how we were coming along on it. And we got talking, and so he asked me, he's like, Bob, what's your second favorite Trans Am if you could have any other Trans Ams besides your 77? And so I told him, I said, well, if I ever had the chance, I'd want to buy an 82 Trans Am, and I'd put the 409 or 4.9 liter 301 Pontiac into the car because that's what the Trans Am for the 3rd gen was originally slated to have. So he told me he had one, and he ended up selling me that car and a parts car to go along with it for $250. And I couldn't turn that down, So I ended up getting the car, and some things are just meant to be, right? So this car was meant to be. So I'm going to show you, or I'm going to go into a little bit behind the build on this car. So the 82 Trans Am here that you see, it's a tribute car. I made it into a tribute car because they never had that Pontiac 301 in it. So I always thought it'd be cool if we could make a tribute car to the pre-production 1982 model that had the Pontiac Turbo 4.9 in it, Turbo 301s. So I was able to source a 301 carbureted engine. I wasn't able to find a turbo version of it, but it is what it is. So I went ahead and I put the engine in, and I made it look as close as I could to, if Pontiac were to put this engine in this car, how would it look? How would it look if somebody wanted to buy this car back in 1982 with a Pontiac engine in it? How would it look when he popped the hood? So I've done my best to try and duplicate what that would be like, okay? I used to work at a Pontiac dealership back in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. So I kind of went off of my experience working with new cars, how things would look, whatever. Went down to Firebird Fest a few years back, met John Chanella. John was one of my childhood idols when I was a kid, reading Hot Rod, Motor Trend. His name would show up in articles about this car, about other cars, and being I'm a Pontiac guy, I'm a huge follower of the cars that they were building back then. So anyway, I had the opportunity to meet John and told him about what I was planning to do with the car. Well, the guy, super awesome, super nice guy. He gave me the time to talk to me about the car, and so I told him what we were doing and how I wanted it to look. I tried to duplicate it off of the pictures that that Pontiac had put out there, and there's only a few out there that that you can find on the internet. So with John's help, he told me this is how the car should look, what it, the colors, the wheels, everything. So I went off of what he told me to do, and I'm ever so thankful that the guy gave me that opportunity to talk to him about this car. So anyway, let me dive into what we're doing here with the headliner real quick. All right. Okay, let's talk about the headliner real quick. So I'm using the headliner board that was in the car, and I put the new headliner material over the top of it. So how I did that is you want to get the surface as clean as possible. So I took a wire brush, scraped off all the old glue and material that was on there, and vacuumed it off of there. Got it, just like I said, I want to get it as clean as possible, because if you don't, it's not going to adhere very well. So I used 3M adhesive that's what I use when I do the headliners on cars, and I sprayed it on the board itself and the backside of the headliner. So then I smoothed it out, put it on, smoothed it out, and then you want to let it sit for a while. They say just a few hours. I always let them sit overnight. So today I'm going to be putting this in to that car, and after I get it in there, I'm going to show you how it looks. So stay tuned for that. All right, what I got laid out here is the tools that you're going to need to do this project. So the first thing, you're not going to use it in this particular order, but I'm just going to go down the line on the tools that you're going to have. You're going to have a razor blade of some sort to cut the holes out for your dome light, the sun visors, any other areas that you're going to have to make a hole. You got to have this. And if you have a piece like I did that's bigger, you're going to have to use that to cut the excess, or you could use a pair of scissors, whatever. All right, next thing you're going to have is some of these require a nut driver to get the dome light off. Now, this particular one didn't have speed nuts on it, but I've seen on other ones they got them on with the nut or the speed nut, so you're going to have the nut driver. The other thing you're going to have is a ratchet with a Torx bit to remove the seatbelt anchors, because on these 3rd gen F bodies, you have to unbolt the seat belt from the anchor at the bottom by the seat, and then you got to feed it up and through the, let me show you here. You got to take and unbolt that and then feed this back up all the way through the headliner. So that's how you're going to have to do that. Needle nose pliers. I got 2 here. One's bigger than the other, but you're going to use those for those speed nuts that I was talking about. But to remove the speed nut first, initially, you're going to have a pocket screwdriver. So you get in there and you pry them out a little bit. Once you get them out a little bit, you can use the pocket screwdrivers, the needle nose pliers to wiggle them out, and they'll come right out. Now, if your dome light does have the push-on retainers, like what I'm describing with these tools that you got to have, you can reuse those retainers by taking them and then putting them on a vise or a flat piece of metal, whatever you have, and just use a small hammer and tap them flat, and then you can push them back up on to your dome light studs that hold it in place on the roof, and you'll be fine. All right, next thing I got here is a couple of prying tools you're going to need to have to remove the trim that goes around the car here. You got trim here, you got trim on the back there, you got to have that, and they all push in retainers, so you got to pop them loose with that. Now, you're also going to need a Phillips head screwdriver and a drill to make things a little faster for you. I would use the drill with the Phillips head to remove the screws to get the ball rolling on this project, and then I would reinstall with the screwdriver, because if you try to reinstall, unless you're better than I am, if you try and reinstall these screws your chances of stripping out the heads are going to be a lot greater with this. Okay, so I would only recommend using it to remove the screws. Reinstall with the screwdriver. That's just me. The other thing you're going to have is a light source. This, you're inside of a car. If you're inside of a building, there's bad lighting. So you got to have something to see, you know, with the holes where your screws are going to go up into. So yeah, so there you go. These are kind of the tools that you're going to need to do this job. All right, so let's go to the headliner now, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, here is the finished project. Headliner's up in place. Now you do notice that I'm missing my dome light cover, but not to worry, we've got one on order and it will be here soon enough, and so we'll get that back in there. But yeah, the headliner is such a great improvement over what I didn't have there. I had to take the old one down, and it was just sagging down, hitting me in the head when I was driving the car, so I was like, screw it, I just took it out completely, and yeah. So, you know, this really finished the inside of the car. Looks beautiful, I love it. So yeah. The other thing I wanted to let you know is when you do this project, you're gonna have to go through that rear hatch to take the headliner out. You got to go out the back, and when to reinstall it, you're going to have to come back in through the rear hatch and reinstall it back up in there. You could probably get it out through these doors, but that's such a big headliner that you'd be risking damaging either the board or the glue that you have in on the headliner to hold it up, and I wouldn't want to have you damage that after all the work you just got done doing. So, all right, so that's it. 1982 Trans Am headliner install is done in the books. The other thing I failed to mention is when you put those in, start in the middle and work your way out. Put your dome light cover in or housing in, and that will hold the whole headliner up for you, and then you can work your way out on the sides, front, back, whatever. So I hope this was some help for you guys, and I hope you found some interest in this. So if you did, please like, please subscribe, and I'll just keep doing these videos for you. And I'm always working on different things, mainly Pontiacs, but I do work on a lot of stuff. I've worked on Jaguars, I've worked on trucks, Chevys. I've got a Ford here now, Mustang. So, you know, whatever you guys fancy, you will probably see something that would catch your eye, maybe learn a thing or two. So, all right, until next time, be good to yourself, and we will talk again. All right, later.